Hello everyone, Dan Burrell, USA Land Ventures, bringing you another episode of Golden Nuggets from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And today it's an interesting topic for both tenants and landlords. We're going to be discussing, as a landlord, what is it that I look for in a tenant application. And if you're a tenant, it gives you a great indication to what most landlords will be looking for and why we look for those, that documentation or behavioral pattern, right? Having said that, number one, we do income check. Income check essentially doesn't matter if your income is coming from a governmental voucher, a 1099, a W-2. It's irrelevant. What we're looking for is that you actually have the income and could afford to pay that rent. Number two, we do a credit check. Why do we do a credit check? Because that gives a landlord an indication on how financially responsible the tenant is, right? If they're paying all their bills on time, it's a great indication that they're also going to pay their rent on time, because we may be, as a landlord, your biggest creditor for the year. So an example of that is if your rent is $1,000 a month, we're giving you a credit line of $12,000 a year, okay? Let's fast forward to number three. We want to check your housing report. If you've been down to housing court in any major city in the United States, it's going to come up that you were there with another landlord in a dispute. It's not going to tell us landlords that are accepting or reviewing your application at the time what you were there for. It's not going to say even won that case, right? But if there's multiple times that you've been to landlord court, there's an indication that you may be a problem tenant. I don't want to deal with problem tenants. There's enough problems in the world. We're all, looking to try to figure out the best resolution, quick as possible, with the least resistance. So we don't want to deal as landlords with potential problem tenants. Now, that's also assuming that the laws in the state allow us to do a housing report, because many states do not allow that. The other thing I'm looking for is consistency, right? I don't want a tenant applicant that comes to me that's moved every single year or every 2 years. Why? Because it costs money to a landlord to clean that apartment, to paint that apartment, to rent that apartment. It takes time to do all that. So we're looking for tenant applications that have consistency. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check with not the current landlord, but I'm going to see if I can speak to the landlord prior to where you're currently living, as if you're a tenant applicant, because that landlord, the one that already got rid of you, is going to tell me the truth. The current landlord's going to tell me you're great because he wants to get rid of you if you're bad. The landlord prior to will tell me the truth because he's already gotten rid of his headaches. So he's going to say, yeah, they're horrible and the reasons why they're horrible, or he's going to say they were great and all the reasons why they were great. Most of the time I hear they were great and he regrets that he lost them, that he wishes he still had them, as because they were great tenants. Then what I'm also going to do, and again, you have to check the laws in the state with everything I'm telling you, because some of these may not be lawful in the state that you are actually practicing in, okay? The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check social media. I'm going to go onto their social media platforms, and if I see them hanging out with a bong, with a partying in a house, I'm not taking that person. I have a responsibility to the other tenants in the property for a reasonable expectation of enjoying their apartment in a quiet enjoyment, all right? And then I'm also going, if they have kids, I'm going to ask them to bring their kids to the apartment when I do the interview. And I'm doing that because I want to see the behavior of the kids, right? So I do take children in my apartment. I never turn anyone down as a result of that, but I will turn them down if the kids are misbehaved, if they're jumping off the walls and the parents have no control of them. Because, now, with the exception if they live on a first floor where they're not going to disturb anyone, right? But if the apartment is on the second, third, fourth floor, the people below have a reasonable expectation of enjoying their apartment in quiet peace. So, children are children. They're going to run. Of course they are. And they're going to jump around. Of course they are. But there's also a reasonable expectation of them going to bed at a reasonable time, right? Or, and have some type of a control over what those, the amount of running and jumping off the walls are, right? The other thing I'm going to do is a criminal check. And I'm going to make sure my main basis on a criminal check is to make sure that, they don't have any sex crimes or sexual crimes in the background, because there's children living in many of my buildings, there's single women living in many of my buildings, there's elderly living in many of my buildings. I want to protect the residents in my building. I have a moral responsibility to protect those residents. You know, do I believe that most people deserve second chances? Absolutely. But can I take that chance at the risk of the safety of the other people in the building? I cannot. So, you know, it also depends on how far back the crimes were. So, you know, if it was a minor crime and the fines were paid and the debt to society was paid, and it's been 10 years with no other crime in their record, yeah, I'm going to give that person a chance, because they've obviously, you know, rehabilitated themselves, and they've obviously turned their lives around. You know, if they could afford one of my apartments, they're working. You know, they've got what they need to do to live there. Why should I not give it to them, right? And again, guys, everything I'm telling you here is, you know, you got to go according to the laws in the state that you're practicing in. If you want to learn to invest in real estate, feel free to click on the link below. There are many more subject matters that I look at when I am evaluating a prospective tenant. It's way too long to put it in this format. But again, guys, you know, click on the link below, USA Land Mentors. We do a free mentorship class every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Please share this. If there's any comments, whether you agree or disagree, put it below. There's no bad comment, only because we're sharing with the community. We're all learning. Have a wonderful day. Take care.